And Biden is just standing there and saying, yeah, just invade, whatever.
Yeah, I think that the U.S. president, no U.S. president's probably responsible for getting us into a war. These days, I think it's more deep state and like administrative officials that are pulling the strings. But a president seems to be able to stop it from happening, or at least put the brakes on.
Keep in mind, look, everything's interconnected. So she, watching this, is looking and saying, hey, Taiwan, you look pretty juicy. That's the one where I think that she, I don't know how long after the Olympics he goes and makes his move. That's the one where I think Putin goes and takes a little part of Ukraine, chalks up a victory. He gets his win. He stops the NATO expansion or the EU expansion, into Ukraine, some of the other things. But I do think she goes all the way and goes for Taiwan.
What gets me, this invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan that the United States pulled off. I can't, in good like conscience, say, hey, China, don't invade Taiwan. Because it's like, dude, I just supported a country for 20 years that invaded a country and still in Iraq. So, but at the same time, I can't condone the CCP invading Taiwan. I can't condone that.
I think the people in Ukraine got a very tough lesson in American foreign policy when they saw what happened in Afghanistan. So I feel bad for the people of Ukraine. They're in an extremely tough situation. On one side, you have Russia. On another side, you have NATO and Joe Biden, who pulled off one of the worst withdrawals, literally arming our enemies. Literally, if you couldn't pull off a worse move than you could even try to when it came to what Biden did with Afghanistan. And that's still fresh in a lot of people's minds, especially internationally, especially in Ukraine, who are sitting there like, man, we're screwed.
Well, let me ask this, though. Some people have pointed out in the chat, if Russia moves on Ukraine, China goes for Taiwan instantly. What do you think?
Possibility.
Yeah, I think it. And look, the order could be the other way around, but there's always safety in numbers. They make it a two-front war because then you have NATO, you have APAC, you have everyone who's looking at it. So I think that's probably pretty accurate. Although I do think that both happen. Regardless, but it speeds up and expedites the action of such if they both do it, or if one does it, yeah.
Let's say this year, Russia invades Ukraine. It seems like it's likely. I mean, or at the very least, the U.S. is saying that there will be a false flag or something happens. Let's say that China does move on Taiwan. What do you think the Biden administration's response is going to be? Do you think they'll be able to handle this, or do you think it just falls apart?
I think it falls apart. And I tell you, and the other thing too, just especially as I'm traveling around and pushing the platform in a lot of different countries, Japan is freaked the heck out. Japan is looking at it and saying, hey, if they take Taiwan, we're next.
Oh, yeah.
And they are, the entire region is absolutely in panic saying, at least, again, we knew where things were with Trump, but Biden, we saw his response tonight. He talked like a U.S. senator. He said, I'm going to give them the toughest sanctions. They are on restriction. They do not get to ride their bike for 2 weeks. And that's about how tough it was.
Yeah, this is why American foreign policy is so mind-boggling, because it's self-defeating. It's shooting itself in the foot. You have a situation where Russia and China don't like each other. There's an opportunity to work with one another, have peaceful cooperation, have economic incentives to work with Europe. And the more that the United States puts up these neoconservatives, the more we push away Russia, the more Russia becomes closer to China, and they could act in unison. And strategically, that would be the move that they would pull off that would put the United States in a very particularly difficult position on the world stage that wouldn't only just question its hegemony, but outright change the whole understanding of how the world kind of operates. So this could also be a deliberate effort to bring down the United States with this kind of viewpoint of what the world sees America as.
Especially under Biden, there's no way the U.S. can maintain its empire. There's no way it can maintain the military bases everywhere. That Russia moves on Ukraine, we're split on two fronts. The U.S. does not have the organizational power, does not have the cohesion. We've got viral videos of women in the army doing TikTok dances. We've got wokeness and critical race theory. I got to be honest. If Xi Jinping is looking at Taiwan, he's probably laughing about what he sees in the U.S. media having to do with our military. Vladimir Putin, the same thing. There was that viral campaign where you had the Russian military ad of it's all black and it's all gray and green. And there's this guy and he's all sweating, he's ripped and he's doing push-ups and he jumps out of a plane and he lands. He's got the mask on his arms and he's like, and he's fighting. And then you have the U.S. Army ad of a little girl saying, I have two moms. And I'm like, that's cool, I guess. I don't know how that's going to instill fear in our adversaries and the people who want to do wrong by us and our friends. But I guess This is what we end up with.
Yeah, something tells me that Xi and Putin do not sit around debating whether or not they're going to fund transgender surgeries. That's probably not something that they spend much time on.
I want to make sure I'm being fair, too. At the same time as this ad comes out and everyone criticized the Army ad for having this like woke diversity thing, we still have the Marine Corps, which is putting out ads of like, there's one where a guy, he sees like weird futuristic sci-fi holograms selling sneakers. And then he like swings at one and then falls and slams. And all of a sudden he's in a swamp and he gets up and he's armed and it's the Marine Corps and it's much, much more hardcore, much more similar to the Russian ad. So that's a fair point. I want to make sure we're giving the reasonableness, the rationality here. But I don't think Russia is putting together ads to convince their military service member in any branch to be woke, diverse, comfy, cuddly, pastel, bean bags, safety spaces, and all that stuff. So unfortunately for us, or maybe even, there's still a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe we shouldn't be the world police. Maybe we never wanted to be. Donald Trump was very critical of this aspect of America. And maybe this will, get us back to America First policies, make us focus on our own borders. Maybe Biden's failures will cost us our empirical status, in a sense. But we'll end up with a stronger economy at home, with the working class being better supported, with secure borders.
But we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We know that, especially not under Biden, at least not till we get a different president in the White House. I mean, the fact of the matter is Trump had very much this position, the America first. And look, a lot of criticism, a lot of heat from people saying you should be doing things to help out. Obviously, he sent the military, the missiles to Ukraine, but said you got to go and handle it on your own. But people knew where Trump stood. And so with North Korea, that was when he put through the big economic sanctions on China. So he had that approach. He was aggressive and he was out in front on a number of these things. The thing with Biden is I don't even think Biden knows what his strategy is. He says, we're going to go and, we'll talk. We'll have some different things. And it's he's not making friends with anything. He's basically just sending the signal to everyone that we're weak. Americans were weak. And that's one of the things, especially as I've been traveling around, even like I said, we were talking about this before we started, even the countries where Trump was way upside down, he's like 10% favorable. They're saying, at least with Trump, people wouldn't steamroll the U.S. or the U.S.'s allies. Biden is inviting all of the aggression from Xi and Putin because he's so weak. I mean, that was a disgrace to the country, what we saw in that 2-hour press conference that he had tonight. It's embarrassing.
But that's just who Joe Biden is. I tweeted out, that's our Joe, because we know it. I was watching, I can't remember what we were watching earlier, but I saw a commercial for Jimmy Kimmel. And I just looked up and I said to everybody, it's crazy that there are people who still live in that world. That fake media, handcrafted narrative world. People still live in there. It's the Matrix. I guess I can envy those poor ignorant fools, but ignorance is bliss. So that bliss, sounds great. Turn on the TV, Joe Biden's great. He's charismatic and confident. Everything's better than ever. And for those of us that have taken that red pill and popped out of the Matrix, we're like, wow, this is really bad. But hey, I'll tell you what, at least we can buy our emergency food and build our bunkers so that when it does hit the fan, we'll be okay for at least a few months, right? I'm kidding. Calm down, everybody.
I don't think it's a bombastic statement to say that the American empire is going down and that there are special interests in this country that are making sure that it gets destroyed from the inside. And I think one way they will do that is by, of course, creating more Afghanistan situations, creating more foreign policy failures, creating more foreign policy that absolutely lets the entire world down. It's absolutely crazy to act and play like this tough guy when, again, diplomacy is the biggest strength that you could show. If you could resolve problems without needing to saber rattle or start a war or kill people, that's one of the biggest strengths that you could have on this world. And more than ever, we need diplomats. But now we have a situation that is very, very dangerous and only going to be expanding from here. And I think the United States is being destroyed deliberately, and I think foreign policy is a major ingredient to that destruction.
And I just add on that is that the only way that diplomacy works is if they think that you have the fortitude to back it up, or if they think that you're tough enough. Because I agree with you. I don't want us to go sending more troops over to Europe or to Asia or to anywhere else. I mean, I thought it was good what Trump did with drawing troops from a number of the countries from around the world. But if people don't think they'll actually act or back up any of your allies on this, then they're going to go and they're going to be aggressive. And then guess what's going to happen? Then you get to real war.
I think we're headed towards real war. I mean, at least with what China's been doing. We have them going near our waters in Hawaii, going near our waters in Alaska. We've had that meeting with Antony Blinken where China basically just said the United States is not coming from a position of power. So when we're at that, we can call it Thucydides' trap. maybe the simple way to put it is not any special kind of, named idea. It's just that China is growing in power. And as their power grows and their military might grows, they become more confident. And they start looking at America saying, you know what, we're not shorter than you anymore. We've grown up, we've matured, and we're powerful. Screw you. And the U.S., being the old dog, going to be like, no way, but we got Joe Biden, so we can't.
Keep in mind that Russia and China both have similar issues that they're facing, where Putin and Xi have to watch their flank internally as well. Part of the reason why Putin does the whole saber rattling is because that's a strategy of saying, you know what, I want to shore up my domestic base by going to get everyone focused on the fact that we own Ukraine. These terrible, horrible people from the West are trying to impose on us. So, let's pay attention to that as opposed to the fact that Russia's economy is the size of the state of New York. Xi, one of the things, China's economy is in real tough stretch right now. They have this massive water crisis in China that is the real deal. I mean, they have some real problems. And the other thing too, all the cheap labor force that they have, everyone's moving up to the middle class in China. So they can't pay people like 2 pennies an hour. They're having to go and try to essentially pillage Vietnam and other countries to do this. So Xi has the same issue. That's part of the reason why he has to go and move on Taiwan to go shore up his base, get everyone rallied, say it's us against the West again.
Yeah, and they have also very little natural resources, very limited ability to farm and produce food. This is why China's trying to turn a desert into farmland right now. This is the lengths that they're turning to. They also turned to weather modification, trying to alter climates in order to provide better farming situations, because this is why it's so important for them to move out of that landlocked position strategically. This is why they've been building islands. This is why even Taiwan is so tempting for them, because they know they need to expand their empire. If they don't, they're going to be doomed, especially with the population that they have right now, filled with a lot of men and very little women. And the situation in China is like a perfect storm, a perfect recipe of disaster.
Well, Tim, to your point about their aggression, even doing things all the way to Hawaii. I mean, since when did the 9-dash line extend to Maui? Right? Yeah. I mean, but that's basically where they are now. They're like, hey, this is the decoupling is happening.
What's the worst case scenario for us, though? I mean, if China starts expanding and taking over, I know there's economic consequences.
So from a really crass perspective, there are a couple of things. Number one, it basically says if they go and take, because you don't take part of Taiwan, right? I mean, it's an island. So either go and take the whole thing. It's a sovereign country. It's not like Ukraine where you can carve out a few miles and say we declare victory and we stop the expansion of the EU and all this kind of stuff. Taiwan is different from a couple things. One, it's a country where we have drawn a line as the U.S. and said this is an ally. We're immediately signaling we'll do nothing for Japan or anyone else in the region. The other thing, too, and again, this is very crass, but it's the real world, the fact that if China were to take Taiwan, the world's semiconductor market we are beyond screwed. We have sent everything to Taiwan. The U.S., I don't think people realize if China will then own effectively everything and I know that's I'm just being very crass about it, but it's saying that the West will never defend an ally just as much.
Right. Cars already hard to come by, computers, and it's not just that. We put computer chips in everything, and that's Taiwan. Steve Bannon was talking about it. He said Silicon Valley West, and that's why you've got U.S. interests desperately trying to pump government money into American factories to produce chips, silicon chips, semiconductors, etc., because we know what's coming. And I appreciate the effort. But it also kind of feels like their quick and desperate moves into funding American manufacturing in this, space, while a good thing, just signals we expect Taiwan to fall to China.
It's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah,
that's what China says. China officially stated on the record, it's not when we invade Taiwan. It's
not if we. It's when.
Sorry. Yeah. It's not if we invade Taiwan. It's when.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.